And we're back, and let's do our AEW Dynasty predictions. All right, starting off with Toni Storm and Megan Bayne. Listen, I may be a Bayne bitch, but I'm giving it to Toni because I really think it's going to lead to eventually Toni Storm and Mercedes, and that's what I want, so that's what I'm hoping for. All right, Daniel Garcia and Adam Cole. You know, I love Danny Garcia, but this reign is not it, and it's a little bit of bad booking, but I'm really hoping for Adam Cole on this. I love Adam Cole, so really hoping he gets a win and becomes TNT champion. All right, the trios. I'm gonna give it to the Death Riders, but only because I think we're going to see the breakup of FTR. And I don't know why, but I went to the Asheville show and I was really hoping that they either turned heel or broke up there. And I don't want FTR to break up. I like FTR, but there's clearly something happening there. So I'm going to give it to the Death Riders, but I think there's going to be some shenanigans. All right, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe. As much as I love Mark Briscoe, I'm going to give it to Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's on a roll, and I think AEW is being smart, and they know that they have a really hot young talent right now, so they're going to push him as much as they can. Mercedes and Julia. Going to give it to Mercedes, but I think it's going to be a great match. I think they have some great chemistry together, just because obviously we're going to get Mercedes and Athena at some point for the TBS champion. So Mercedes is retaining. Ospreay and Kevin Knight. I just think this is going to be a really fun match. I think they have some great chemistry as well, but I'm going to give it to Ospreay. And again, I think there's going to be a lot depending on the Owen Hart with what happens with Swerve and Mox. But I think we're going to eventually see Ospreay versus Fletcher once again in the Owen Hart together. Hurt Syndicate versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. As much as I love Big Bill and Brian Keith right now, I'm going to give it to the Hurt Syndicate. And hey, maybe this is the time we get the Young Bucks coming back and challenging the Hurt Syndicate. I don't know why, but I think the Hurt Syndicate and the Bucks will be a great match. They're very two different styles, but I think it will somehow be really good. All right. Ricochet versus Kenny Omega versus Speedball Bailey. I'm actually really excited for this. I think it's going to be a very weird match. You have a lot of different personalities and styles in here, but I'm going to have Kenny Omega retaining. I mean, by now you should always know I'm always going to pick Kenny Omega, even if the odds are against him. Kenny Omega is my favorite wrestler. Kenny is retaining until he goes up against Okada at All In, when he becomes a double champion or a unified champion. But it will be Kenny Omega. All right, Swerve Strickland and Mox. Now, I want it to be Swerve. In my heart, I want it to be Swerve. I think we know Mox as a wrestler and not in outside of kayfabe really respects Swerve Strickland. So I can see Mox wanting to lose to Swerve. I do think we all have to stop and realize that we've moved on from Darby. Darby is set to climb Everest on the 15th, and that's at least a 2-month trek, and then obviously some recovery time. So I don't think we're going to be holding out for Darby to dethrone Mox. However, if Swerve does not win, I really think that I would really love for then the wild card in the Owen Hart to be Eddie Kingston, because who better to take down Mox than Eddie Kingston? So those are my picks. I mean, mind you, I might change. The only ones I'm really going back and forth are Mox and Swerve, which I'm going to give it to Swerve because I want Swerve to win. My heart says Swerve, my gut says Mox, but I'm going to give it to Swerve. And the Death Riders versus Rated FTR. Oh my God, how did I forget about Jericho and Bandino? I just was like, it's Jericho. I'm going to skip right over that. Because this is for the ROH and the mask, I'm going to give it to Bandino. I think, Tony does a really good job at pivoting when he realizes that the crowd's not feeling something and they're not going to have Bandito lose his mask. So I'm going to give it to Bandino because I love him and I want him to win. All right. So what are your predictions? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm insane? I mean, I am insane. But let me know your predictions below, and happy Dynasty weekend. Have a good day.